Welcome to the DNA Advantage podcast, where you can learn facts about your DNA that can help you live a healthier, longer life, doing all the activities you dream of doing. If you want to gain more control over your health and the factors that influence it, you're in the right place. Hi, thanks for joining me. This is Lisa Witherow, and today I'll be reviewing a few questions I've received about DNA testing. The first question is, what test is recommended? It really depends on what your priority is for testing. If you'd like to learn about ancestry, then you could go with any of the online options, including Ancestry DNA, Family Tree, 23andMe, and Living DNA. I've used the first three that I listed with clients, and I've heard recently that Living DNA actually gives a more detailed ancestry picture. But all of them offer an ancestry map that shows the regions that your ancestors came from and percentages of your DNA likely to originate from each area. For health purposes, all the tests offer raw data that can be downloaded and used to reveal some health information, but their data chips can change. So if you're looking for a specific data or for a specific data point, you may want to contact the company and ask to make sure that they do offer that gene or that SNP that you're looking for. Another question that I've been asked is, how do the tests work? So what happens is you order the test and they will ship it to you. And what you want to do when you first receive it is register online with your basic information. Now, some people are concerned about their information being known and they don't want their data to be breached or shared with anyone. So at this point, you could use a pseudonym for anonymity if you wanted to. What I would recommend, though, especially if you're doing more than one test in your household, you want to make sure you write down the test barcode along with the pseudonym that you're using and the family member that it connects to, so that you don't lose track of who's who. Even if you have multiple children, every child will have different DNA results, so you want to make sure that you have all of the information straight. So all of these tests are then saliva, either a cheek swab or you spit into a tube, which amounts to about 1/4 teaspoon of saliva. So if you have an older adult who doesn't produce a lot of saliva, or you have a young child who you can't convince to spit into a tube, you may want to look at the ones that are cheek swabs, which I believe at this point, at least in the past, it was Family Tree and Living DNA. Again, you may want to check and make sure that they haven't changed their testing process, but that is what I believe to be the case. So once you've gotten the saliva test completed, you want to box it up according to the instructions and make sure the mailing label is visible and put it in the mail. With most of the companies, if not all, the postage is already paid for, so you shouldn't have to worry about weighing it or taking it to a post office. You can just throw it in your mailbox. So the other question that I've received is, what should I expect in terms of the results? And there are a few things that I would like you to keep in mind before you get your results. One is, please don't look for risk factors as the answer to your data. When you get your information, you will likely, if you use these companies, you will likely have just the ancestry information. And when you download the raw data, it will be just numbers and letters on lines. You won't be able to understand. So you will need to use a reporting company, the secondary company, to help decipher that information. And there are several reporting companies out there. Prometheus is one company, and LiveWello is another really good one. But there are some disadvantages to relying on a secondary company for reports. One is that they use typically a red, green, yellow coding. And what that means is they are showing a green gene as what they call a wild type, which is the fully functioning gene. Yellow is a heterozygous, so one allele is compromised, 1 out of 2. And the red is typically homozygous, which is 2 alleles are compromised. So both the allele from mom and the allele from dad are compromised or mutated. So what's confusing about that is when you receive your results, you might think that red indicates bad, and that's not the case. As an example, the lactose gene, when it's green, that actually means you're more likely to be lactose intolerant, because as we have evolved, we have developed a resistance to lactose. So we're actually able to process it better if we have the mutation. That's just one example of the oversimplified version of these reports and not getting somebody to help you figure out what it really means. But one of the points I really want to drive home with this is please think beyond the risk or the red. Don't look at the reports as being good and bad and danger, because you really need someone to help you figure out what the meaning is and what you can do about it. There are so many genes that we can support if we look at the gene and we see that it's compromised. And then we look to our symptoms and our family history and we validate that, yes, this gene is likely expressing. That's when we look at what our action steps could be to support that gene. Through environment, nutrition, and lifestyle choices, we can support those genes and make sure that we don't add any more stress to them. It's something that we really need to be aware of before we get our results. Once you have your results and you've looked at your ancestry, and then you decide that it's time to look at your health factors, you can look at the report or have the report produced, and it's about $25 to have a report issued if you decide to go that route. But even if you get the report and even if you validate that the red status is compromising a gene, you want to make sure that you recognize that's not your destiny for disease. It's not how you're going to die. It's not something that's a predestined outcome. You have to look at look back to your symptoms and your heritage to see if it's an expressing gene, if it's something that you're experiencing problems with, and if you are, then looking at how you might be able to support it would be ideal. Some of the support that you can receive, you can get 1-hour consultations with practitioners that help in this area, and that ranges usually between $200 and $500. So the problem with that is that 1 hour is typically not enough to understand your full genetic report, and it can be really overwhelming because the practitioners typically want to give you as much information as you can take in that 1 hour, and it can just be really overwhelming and not even be able to get to the what should I do next phase. The other option is you can do research online. There are organizations and memberships that you can join to do research and to gather information and document as you go along. Unfortunately, a lot of them are difficult to maneuver, and again, there's a lot of jargon and a lot of information to sift through in order to get what's relevant to you. One of the directions that I have found, because I have researched this for my clients and tried to find the most practical and the most helpful programs out there, There is a testing source called yourgenomicresource.com/patients, and you can get the information on that testing process and understand their approach. They cover a lot more genes than the other testing companies. This test is offered by practitioners only, but it does include a report that gives details on your results, and it's $249. So a program like that where you can actually get a large complement of your genes to understand how they interact with one another and how they're affected by lifestyle and nutrition and environment is really valuable, especially if you're looking for health information. And another thing that I've done in the last year is started to develop a program that helps walk people through their own genetics. So for one, they don't have to upload their data into a report structure that is a secondary company. They don't have to try to decipher it for themselves. It gives them an ongoing support because it's a 30-day program, and it is something that there are touch points each week for discussion and questions. That is a program that should be available by the end of March of 2019. If that is something that you're interested in, look at the Facebook group for the DNA Advantage. There will be a special offer for the testing as well as the 30-day DNA discovery program through April 2019 at least. So if you're interested, just contact me through my Facebook page, and there is an email option on that page as well. Thanks for joining me in my discovery of DNA. If you'd like to learn more, please subscribe to this podcast, like and share it with friends, and follow my page on Facebook. Again, it's the DNA Advantage. Thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.